ค่ะเพื่อนๆทุกคนถ้าพูดถึง GMAT แล้วเนี่ยเราจะขาดหัวข้อนี้ไปไม่ได้เด็ดขาดนั่นก็คือ Reading Comprehension ค่ะซึ่งในหัวข้อนี้นะคะเขาก็จะทดสอบเราในเรื่องของการวิเคราะห์ข้อมูลต่างๆการอ่านเพื่อความเข้าใจการสรุปผลโดยในโจทย์นะคะเขาก็จะมีตั้งแต่1ย่อหน้าขึ้นไปฮันแน่รู้นะว่าอยากไปลองทำโจทย์กันแล้วถ้าอยากไปลองทำโจทย์กันแล้วเนี่ยก็หยิบกระดาษกับปากกาให้พร้อมแล้วไปทำโจทย์พร้อมๆกันเลยค่ะ
Hello and welcome to Manhattantest channel. Now we're going to look at a reading comprehension question. So reading comprehension is much like any other passage that you've looked at in TOEFL or IELTS, just at a higher level. So let's begin with the question. Now normally I would be saying you need to spend a few minutes looking at the passage, understanding the passage first before we look at the questions. Right? But we have a reasonably long passage, so we'll quicken it a little bit. We'll have a look at this type of question. So once we read the passage for meaning, right, to understand generally what it's about, we can look at the questions. So the passage suggests that the bank managers failed to consider whether or not the service improvements mentioned in lines 12 to 13. So it suggests, so it's like it is a specific question. Specific questions, right, we need to go back and find the information in the passage. Okay, so it suggests we're going to probably require some paraphrasing. One of the key traps in reading comprehension is to take words from the passage and put them in the wrong answer choices. Right? It might be the opposite, it might be one word off. Right? But we need to avoid that trap by finding the information in the passage. They're not going to have a correct answer which doesn't come from the passage. Okay, so the passage suggests that bank managers failed to consider whether or not services. We ask ourselves, what's it asking us? Bank managers, what did they not consider? What did they fail to consider whether or what did they fail to consider when the service improvements mentioned in lines 12 to 13? Okay, what did they not recognize or think about? We have a clue where to look in the passage, lines 12 to 13. Sometimes in the actual test it might be a bolded phrase or it might be a specific noun. So let's go, we've read the passage for meaning, we've understood roughly what it's about. We know it's lines 12 to 13, so we'll go back and have a look at the passage. Lines 12 to 13. Okay. Despite its investment in reducing the time a customer had to wait for a teller. Alright, so the service improvement is reduction in time. Now it's a paraphrase question. We might need to read plus and minus a few lines. Let's go at the beginning of this paragraph. This truth was not apparent to managers of one regional bank which failed to improve its competitive position despite its investment in reducing the time the customer had to wait for a teller. Failed to improve its competitive position. Bank managers did not recognise the level of customer inertia. The amount of energy required in the consumer banking industry that arises from the inconvenience of switching banks. Okay, the difficulty of switching banks. How much effort it required to actually switch banks. Nor did they analyse the service improvements to determine whether it would attract new customers by producing a new standard of service. Is that improvement in service enough to attract customers? By producing a new standard of service that would excite customers, get them enthusiastic enough? Or proving difficult for competitors to copy, gaining a competitive advantage by having something which is difficult to replicate. Okay, so I've got a pretty good understanding what that's about, whether it's by exciting the customer enough to move or by making it difficult for competitors to copy. We paraphrase it to ourselves, we get the meaning. And now we have to go back, so we've understood it, we've paraphrased. Reading comprehension is about the understanding. How do you understand something? You can say it in your own words. Okay, so then we go back to the questions. And we have to match our answer with the answer choices. It was too complicated to be easily described. If I take my mind back, they actually said that the opposite here. They said it was actually easy to describe, and that's not the thing that they failed to consider. A is up. B, made a measurable change in the experience of customers in the bank's offices. That's not what they failed to consider, right? They were looking, it's not, we said it was either something that can't be replicated or whether it excited them enough. Maybe leave that on the board. It's possible C, could be sustained if the number of customers increasing. No, it's not about being sustained. That's not what it said. It was an innovation that, oh, okay, could not be replicated. That matches the answer. E was adequate to bring the general to a level that was comparable. Actually, if we look back at the passage, actually it implies in here that they already had a level of service that was comparable. So it acts actually the opposite and it doesn't match. We go back to the answer choices, it doesn't match that. Okay, made a measurable change in the experience of customers. Right, D was what they said in the passage. So we found the answer, we looked for a clue, we paraphrased it to ourselves. We must consider all the options. Right, we see an answer that we like, we leave it on the table. We must read our questions carefully. And then it might come down to, and you have to look at each word carefully. Okay, so that's a reading comprehension passage. There are many different types of questions in the reading comprehension. If you would like, if you're interested in studying with us here at Manhattantest, please be sure to either phone, send us an email, or come and visit us in person when the time is right. Thank you for watching.